Hey YouTube, welcome back. We've had another build contest here. This is as a result of one of the VisionGL theory crafting weeks. This week, we've been trying to build around the unique one-handed axe Taste of Blood. I think a lot of people found this week very difficult because Taste of Blood is kind of a generic, strong weapon. It doesn't have too many interesting things going around about it. And in fact, we only have one build to show you today. So instead of having voting at the very end of this, because we already have our winner, I want to talk about how you might go about building around a unique weapon. Taste of Blood, it has some build around concepts on it. So it does have chance to bleed on melee hit, but it has generic bleed duration. So it might be something that you can incorporate in like a throwing build or a spell build as well. Having a bleed come from a different source, and then you could use a melee hit in order to speed up the duration, speed up all of those bleeds that were currently happening. A similar option to that would be going with a minion build. One of the first builds we talked about was incorporating this into a bleed squirrel build. Squirrels have, wolves, have generic leech, which is good for survivability. They also have a ton of bleed damage over time multipliers on their skill tree. And then they also have bleed duration. A nice thing about being a primalist using wolves or squirrels would be that you also have idols for shared bleed duration. So like it's bleed duration for yourself, and it's also bleed duration for your minions. And then I think the last thing that you could do with Taste of Blood is, if you squinted this, an item like Taste of Blood also makes your bleed duration into a modifier that works for all of your damage, not only for super high health bosses like a tier 4 jeweler boss. So normally bleed duration, you can think of it as like your peak DPS. So if once you wind up all the bleeds on the enemy, that's the biggest amount of damage as long as you can just stand there and continue wailing on the monster. But if your bleeds last for like a minute, for example, nothing in the game outside of extremely tanky monsters or a boss is going to last for a minute. You're going to like hit a monster once or twice and it's going to die. So having this bleed duration kind of collapse in on itself and double the damage but half the duration, you could scale bleed duration and have it affect your damage with more immediacy. So those are like the ways that you could try to build around this. A couple considerations for Taste of Blood is if you're popping a bleed or if you're significantly reducing the duration of a bleed, it does cause your leech to be worse because your leech is going to run out. And normally damage over times shine in an arena scenario or just like against high health monsters because you have so many leech instances going on at the same time. So normally dot builds leech very, very well, but with Taste of Blood, not quite so much. So this is something that I considered playing. I actually didn't end up playing this because I kind of thought that it was going to be too good. So let's find out whether this idea actually panned out, and we'll see. We'll see what actually happened here. So when we do these build contests, I ask people to submit a couple sentences to go along with it, just so that I know what's going on. They can kind of explain the build, and they can explain how they're using a Taste of Blood. So at first glance, this is a Swarm Bleed Tornado character. I'll read these sentences in just a moment, but let's see what's going on here. They have shared bleed duration on the chest piece and on the helmet. Excuse me, that's very cool. We have generic chance to bleed on hit from Thorn Slinger. How much life do we have? 2,400, 2,500? Man. Even not using a shield. Gotcha. We have a bleeding heart for tons of leech. I like that. Dexterity, tiny bit of melee attack speed. Looks like our weapon or our gloves are just for as much health as possible. Damage over time, physical damage, sure. And then physical damage over time. And then Eterra's Path. I assume Eterra's Path is just there to help us sustain Swarmblade form along with Sprigging form. So, we know what the weapons are. We know what we're expecting to see out of this build. But let's read about this. This is a Swarmblade bleed tornado procking build. So their very first sentence, they said, not a cool build, in my opinion. Many guys think of a similar build, but I can think of it only as a variant of the 084 Poison Tornado build, if you've seen that floating around YouTube. So the pros of this build, it has 1.5 to 2 million DPS against a boss. It's got 7,000 EHP, which strikes me as a bit low, but I guess we can call that a pro. It can complete 200 corruption timelines, and it can complete tier 4 jewel run. So we've got a clip here, and we'll peek at that in just a moment here. Cons, it takes about 7 seconds to stack up the peak damage, even considering that we're using a Taste of Blood. It requires face-to-face to deal damage, and it's often troubled by scattered ranged monsters, especially when you're clearing an echo. It feels uncomfortable fighting some bosses with high melee risk, especially things like Jorah. So Taste of Blood, and I'll hover over that here. I guess my face is in the way, but it's okay. Oh, I can go like this. So Taste of Blood, without a doubt, Taste of Blood is the most important core to this build. Primalist's Tornado is a powerful, high-frequency hit skill that works with a lot of dot ailment builds. Also, he has a lot of bleed resources, so Bleed Tornado is theoretically a feasible build, but Primalist lacks a mechanism to pop bleed damage, something like Sentinel's Abyssal Echoes. Therefore, on the basis of the number of tornadoes it takes, 6 or 7 seconds to stack all of them, the bleed damage whose duration has been increased needs to wait another 7 to 10 seconds to reach the peak value. This will be a clunky performance on many boss fights, and Taste of Blood's stackable, doubling bleed speed effect solves this problem very well. So instead of having like stack to get the tornadoes, and then the tornadoes stack, and then the tornado stack bleeds, and then the bleeds have a long duration, we're just like collapsing one of those duration components. Okay. Beastmaster, passive aspect of the boar, gives 120% increased bleed effect, which is one of the reasons that I don't use Assault the Wound. Valdir's Chalice is very sweet, gives me about 30 or 40% damage boost. Unfortunately, I don't have it in this build, so you can assume that they'd like to have a Valdir's Chalice then. Let's keep hovering over this. Tornadoes trigger spells, which is Storm, Orb, and Lightning. They do benefit from Tornado's more damage bonus, because it's a sub-skill, and that's all those skills should work. Debris passively provides 88% more damage. Eye of the Storm passive is most important, but not only providing 100% more, but making the tornado no longer randomly move, but instead follow the player. So we're using a, let's take a look at this. We're using a Eye of the Storm, tornadoes stack on top of you so that you can control where they are. I've seen some people go this Eye of the Storm route, and then some other people go to Druidic Control so that the tornado just like stays in one place. It seems like whichever one you're going to take of these, it's fine, but having something that makes the tornado not wander off in the other direction is probably an important thing to include in build. In non-boss battles, the rage cost is very high. Although there are many nodes in it that passively reduce the rage cost, it will seriously reduce damage. Therefore, the boots, Itera's Path, plus the Garden of Rage nodes, Garden of Rage from Spriggan Form, are important, and they're the most cost-effective choice for maintaining rage. Cool. So, I'm not surprised to see that at all. This is a pretty much the only succinct way of solving rage when you're playing a Swarmblade form. But let's peek the other skills here, see what's going on. So in Swarmblade form, we have all these nodes on the very top right, proccing our tornadoes, and then the tornadoes get 80% more damage. So that's pretty good. I think I don't see why this wouldn't be inherited by the bleeds and the storm orbs here. They should be. I'm pretty sure they are, but I guess technically, if I were looking for bugs, that would be one place that I'd look for a bug. Oh my god, I made a pun. We have this node here as well for attack speed. Cast speed doesn't matter for us. We have a bunch of dodge rating, armor rating. Dodge rating converted into armor. Okay, so we only have a whole bunch of armor. I kind of like having both, but okay, I could see it. And then we have Maelstrom as well. Maelstrom coming up here for attack speed and cast speed, and frenzy and haste. We're converting this into physical damage. Sure. Spriggan form, we know what's going on here. We have Garden of Rage, and then we have as many nodes down here into the recasted Thorn Shield as possible. And those are coming from, yep, these 5 points for Thorn Shield. Got it. Tornado. Whenever you see someone doing an ailment tornado build, it's based off of this this node here, the Storm Orb stuff. The Storm Orbs are really good at applying ailments. I've seen a poison version of this, and I've seen a frostbite version of this, which are both really, really strong. So this is just like a bleed take on it that has Taste of Blood as the focal point. So I like what I see here. And then Serpent Strike. Remember, Serpent Strike we're getting from Swarmblade form with this node here. So we don't need to use a two-hander. Let's see. We have Poison Chance, some stuff, bleeding, or what is this? Blinding Poison, sure. The Poison Chance really doesn't do much for us, right? We can just like blind enemies. We have some attack speed, some attack speed. Is there anything else we can use here? Oh, we don't have this, huh? I wonder. I would definitely try this out if this were me. Let's take a look at the mastery real quick. We have everything that says life on it. Sure, looks fine. In shaman form, we need to get tornado, and then we have some extra attack speed up here where all the totems are active. I assume that we have something that says chance on hit to summon a thorn totem. That's nice. And the thorn totem is only there to proc these nodes here, which is nice. In the druid skill tree, God, it's so rough being a druid these days. Like, you want to put points in Beastmaster, you're probably going to put points in Shaman, and then how do you ever get all the way up to hide skin? So it's kind of rough. In this case, you don't get up to hide skin. We have this node here. Shout out to my favorite node on any skill tree. I love the 5-point bonus for druidic prowess. A couple points here, as much attack speed as possible. I like that. And then just the attunement for crit avoid scaling. Let's take a look at Beastmaster. Normally you only see like 20 points in here, maybe 25 points, but we have all these points for bleed as well. I would have like maybe trimmed some of these points out of Tusk Warrior. I see 7 out of 8, maybe like 4 out of 8, just to get like this juicy bleed effect. Because obviously the bleed effect is why you're here. It's like, it's so good. We have some footage to look at as well. So let's see how this build looked when it was clearing an echo. Is there volume? Oh, what do you got? Pew pew pew. So every time they hit a monster, they're like doubling the bleed damage, and they're halving the bleed duration. Those monsters behind, how many of the monsters behind them are actually dying? Because the bonus stability is only at 10 here, right? Another way to juice up the clear speed would be, instead of having Eye of the Storm, instead of having the tornado on top of you, you could have like like stationary tornadoes behind you, and those would continue to create storm orbs, right? So that would like leave more damage behind you so that you're continuing to deal damage so you could like clear faster, kind of. All right, we'll watch 2 of them. I'm going to watch the Aerobus one and the tier 4 Jewel Room one. I'm going to skip over the 200 mono boss. All right, show me something sweet. How's this look? Look at that leech. It's not bad. Good leech. Tank it. Just tank it. Health, endurance, 200 corruption. So 2 tanky modifiers here and 200 corruption. That looks good. I like that. Make it happen. Let's see it. Big damage.
Escape is impossible. The future cannot be denied.
Just tank it. I appreciate the demonstration of defenses. Just getting hit over and over. Ooh, nice timing. I like it. Take it. Take it. Oh, don't take that. Oh, God. Don't tank the big one. We are definitely dual wielding, and we definitely do not have a Bastion of Honor on. Holy moly. The damage looks good though. It's like, it's totally fine. Not busted. This is a very fair build in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, good. I like it. So I think that about concludes it. This person will be getting a gift sub to either my channel or to Vision's channel as a way to thank them for submitting a build, even though this week, in my opinion, was kind of the hardest week that we've had so far of these theory crafting weeks. Because it's hard to look at an item that has like such basic text and think of something spicy to do with it. I can think of plenty of good, normal builds to do with this. Like we said at the very beginning, just doing some kind of like bleed squirrel build, either with upheaval or with swipe as yourself, as your own stacks of bleed, would be totally fine. And it sounds stock standard almost. But trying to think outside the box, trying to come up with like an off-meta, theory-crafting, weird build with Taste of Blood, I haven't seen one yet. So if you have one, you can feel free to leave that in the comment section of this video. You can always drop by on Twitch or on Discord as well and share your builds there as we collectively wait for multiplayer to drop. So hope you enjoyed it. That was Taste of Blood Week. We'll see you next time.